I've never been to this training center, and we've talked a little bit about the old days at Claude Robillard. Very different setting. But we're trying to do a little bit here in the community to see different people. I wanted to come here to CF Montreal to say hello. Also, look, Joey's a big reason why I've done this, because we've now had a good relationship over the past couple of years, and we've reconnected, and I've been, really impressed with watching his team at Bologna, and I had a chance to visit him there, and then he and I spoke about the times of the past. He's followed my career in Europe, and it was really nice. It was cathartic for me, actually, to reconnect with Joey and to know that he was so supportive of me to be the Canadian national team coach. So, I'm really thankful to be the coach of Canada. I'm being here back in Canada and seeing how many people were excited about the performances and the team and feeling like we electrified a nation. I think we're proud of that. And it's just the beginning, but it was certainly a really good start for our team. The reason I took the job is because I believe that there were a large portion of the player pool that could play the way that I think about football. And so, I wanted to try to challenge them to adapt to a new way of playing as quickly as possible. And of course, there's certain things that have been established from the past that I knew were important, and we continued to try to use in the way we did things. But specifically defensively, I knew that we had to become more aggressive, more intensive, more dynamic. We had to be better at pressing and counter-pressing. We had to sprint more. We had to be more confrontational physically and in duels. So, and part of that is getting pressure on the ball, and I think it's harder to get pressure on the ball if you play with a back three or back five. Now, we kind of always morphed to then, when we had possession, to playing sometimes with a three or a flexible three that became a four. And because the players are so intelligent, they were able to adapt quickly to the tactics and to the behaviors and to the principles of what we wanted to achieve. And that was incredibly positive. I would not have thought that we could have not just gotten the results that we got, but that perform in the match and be as clear tactically as we were. So it made it fun. And the players, I think, appreciated what we were doing, understood why we were doing it, and were able to adapt and commit to it in a really high level. Look, I think Sam, first of all, is a consummate professional, like incredible, one of the best professionals I've ever been around. And he can play at a high level, and he adapted really well to the things I was asking of him. And then it was just trying to think about how to use the player pool, how to push every player within the group to be ready to contribute, and how clear could they be on what their role would be. And look, Sam aside, one of the best things about Uruguay was when we made the changes, and we can talk about Mathieu next if you would like, but how everyone came into the group and looked like they didn't skip a beat and performed almost better than some of the others that had been playing. So, and Sam, I know if he would have been called upon, would have been able to perform in that way as well. So I don't think it's time for Sam to think about moving on. I think it's just him adapting to the things that I like and that I want from him, and being ready for to continue to perform here with his club team, and then be ready when he's called upon again for the national team. I would be an advocate of players moving to Europe as well. However, it's situational. One of the things is I spoke to Stefan Eustachio, and I said, look, being at Porto is a great club, but you've got to find a way to get on the pitch. You've got to play. It's hard to be able to then commit or be at the highest level possible with the national team if you're not playing consistent 90-minute games with your club team. And he agreed completely. And he loves being in Porto, but I think he's evaluating what's best for his career moving forward. And that's a good example of any player. Of course, I want all these players to achieve in their personal and professional lives. And that's from a playing perspective, a financial perspective, so they can provide for their families. In all ways, we want them to be successful. But it doesn't help if you make a bigger move to a bigger club or a European club if you're not playing. Now, I think Mathieu has big potential in who he is as a player. And right now, I still think he's in a good way improving here. And if the right situation comes up, it's up for him to evaluate and decide what's best. But again, players need to play. We can't have a national team full of, if I call in a camp of 26 players and 13 of them aren't playing regular minutes, that's not helpful to us either. And I think we showed that it doesn't matter if you play in MLS or if you play in Europe. If you're fit, you're sharp, you understand what we're trying to achieve, you can commit to it, then it doesn't matter where you're playing, you can perform for us. And that will in the end be what's most important. Every club has to use their resources to the best of their abilities to create a strategy around what they think is best for their club. So it's not my job to say that, what club's doing well or not. Every club has their own strategy. I will repeat again. It is unacceptable that a player like Moise Bambito is not discovered until he's 23 years old. Like, that's because his talent is I've coached some of the best center backs in the world, and this is what I told him. I've coached Upamecano, Konate, Gvardiol. And his talent level is in that category. So we have to find a way as a Canadian soccer community how to create better infrastructure. From first, what we have to do is do a better job to create more funds and infrastructure for what we're doing with the national team program, so that we are more on top of the Canadian youth national teams, and we are identifying talent earlier and having them challenged within the style of football that we're trying to employ. And then we have to find a way to identify talent, to have better relationships, I think, in communities, so that everybody can help understand how to give the best players the best opportunities to develop as quickly as possible, so that they can be successful at younger ages. And in general, we've got to be able to tilt the bar from players being identified and developed at 22, 23, 24 years old, and be able to do it more at 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. That takes expertise. It takes commitment from a wide group of people to work together. It takes infrastructure from the national team program. So when people ask me, like, okay, so what are you going to do now till September? I'm like, yeah, I don't have as much time as I would like because there's a million things to do, and I'm just trying to prioritize right now what will be important for us to create the kind of infrastructure in this country to create better players earlier. And so the one way I've described it is my day job is to make the best national team that I possibly can. But my passion project is to develop the sport in this country and create better infrastructure at youth levels so that we're developing players faster and better. Look, the Uruguay game was outstanding in terms of now really understanding how we want to play, committing to the version of football that I want the team to play, creating the chances we wanted to play, finishing some of the chances, but then we gave it away a little bit in the game with a little bit of an inexperience in certain moments and not being able to shut the game down. In general, throughout the tournament, as well as we performed, if we would have converted more chances, we would have had more leads. Then maybe I would have been able to rotate more players at the end of the match. And then even by the time we get to the semifinal, maybe we don't have as tired legs and we can push in that match a little bit more, because Argentina was able to rotate throughout the tournament because of their player pool. They've been together a longer time. They were able to manage games in the lead up. So we're just at the beginning phase, right? But the most positive sign is that the team is adapting and evolving and developing. And along with that, our ability to be more efficient in front of the goal will provide us more leads, and now continue to build with the belief and the confidence of what's being done. So this was an incredible start, but it's only the start. For me, the job of the players to develop themselves into what we're trying to become of a national team isn't done once they leave the national team. I told them they need to take the lessons that they've learned for what the level is, and then the kind of football that I'm encouraging with them, and how to apply that even now with their club teams. That's not the easiest thing for me to say or for them to execute, because their national team or their club team coach will often be asking them to do different things, tactically different things. But a lot of the things that I think that they learned when they spent the time with me can be applied to almost any playing style. And it's a little bit, there's some tactical things there, there's some technical things, there's some conceptual things. But what I tried to do in the end was not just about the playing style, but where I come from at the highest level and knowing what the best opponents are like and what the game is like at the highest level, trying to translate it to them so that they can convert themselves into players that can compete and be successful in those matches. And in the end, I think it will also provide them with a good foundation for how they can be successful and develop even when they're here with their clubs. I told the players at the beginning of Copa America, I put a little sign, a title up on the screen, and it said 26 for 26. I said, what does that mean? And Fonzie raised his hand and he goes, 26 players for 2026 World Cup. I said, yes. And I said, look, every player in that room at that time was in pole position, right? And their job is to develop and to push themselves and to adapt and to understand what my standards are for the team moving forward. And their job was to make sure that they didn't let their position slip, right? And so, look, a lot of the players in the time we had together developed and adapted incredibly well. The one thing that I've said continually is the mentality and the spirit and the desire and from the team is very unique. And so I know that I can tap into that, and I also know that there's not a ton of room for development in terms of like the overall work ethic and mentality of the team. But it's about adapting to the football and to the intensity and to the expectations and understanding of what high-level international football is. And I think they were given a crash course in that, not just from the philosophy of the coach I am, but also from what the opponents require and demand. And now, again, the job is for them to continue to use that to catapult themselves in their own personal development when they're with their clubs. Okay. So Kevin Blue's here today, and he is an incredible recruiter, as I learned how he got me here. And we're already developing strategies, and we're going to be calling on him and his experiences. I'm going to be doing some traveling and communicating. We're asking some of our leaders in the team to also be part of the recruitment process, to try to we're identifying and then having the types of conversations to find the right kinds of players, dual nationals, to fit into what we're doing moving forward. And look, one of the things about being successful in Copa America is I think maybe some players who were considering or thinking that maybe the opportunity to go to a different nation might be better because they might be able to compete more at the international level. I think that now that we've shown that we can compete, that the recruitment process, I think, will be a little bit hopefully easier and cleaner, and to say, come to Canada and we can really make some big waves in the World Cup in 2026. So first, Ismail, this club should be very, very proud of Ismail Kone. He is a big talent and has a massive future. I'm happy that he'll be in Marseille because where I'm at in Italy is pretty close, and so I'll be able to visit him. I'll be, and then the other part about how to develop the game here is I'll be on the ground here a lot. And then, whether it's coaching clinics, coaching symposiums, meeting with coaches, meeting with people inside the game, trying to use my experiences to provide whatever people want from me. I don't want to be here to shove things down people's throat and say, oh, I know everything better than what people here know. Like, the sport has been developed, and our player pool shows that. But we all, I think, can agree that it needs to be better. And I want to just use my experiences and expertise to help in whatever way I possibly can, along with Bev, right, on the women's side as well. So there's a lot of work to do, I think, to continue. Some people inside the CSA talk about national training centers. Some talk about better coaching education. Some talk about better academy systems and a better connection between academy systems. I think it's all of it. Right? It's not one thing. It's almost everything that we have to try to all work together to see how we can continue to develop the sport from a youth perspective so that in 10 years from now, the national team program is in a much better position. Right? That's ultimately what the goal is. But there's a lot of things to do, and I'm just trying to figure out how to. I haven't even. I've got lists upon lists, and now I need to prioritize, and now I need to think about action plans as to how we start to put things in place so that we can make a difference. I believe, I don't want to let anything out, but I believe that eventually here, as we secure some opponents for the upcoming windows, that there is an emphasis and hopefully an announcement that we will be playing back here again. I don't think that that's certain quite yet, but I know that this is a big emphasis, and it's something that's important to me. And I've said, like, playing in Montreal would be, I think, important for the community there, for me to be back there and be part in that community again. So it's something that we've definitely talked about.